Hi, it's Sandy Parker, and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. I wanted to remake this lunchbox, and so I spray painted it with just your basic spray paint, and I did a lousy job as usual, but no one's going to see it. So I thought what I would do is put some napkins on it, and I wasn't exactly sure which one I liked the best. I really like this one with the peacock, but I wasn't sure if it was too busy, so I might start with this one with the roses and then go from there. First thing you need to know about using napkins is that you have to take the extra ply out. So I put a piece of washi tape on the back, and all you do is you kind of rub it on your napkin, and then you're going to want to try and pull apart, see, like this. Makes it so much easier, trust me when I tell you that, to take the front off the back. And then you can use the other part for whatever you want. I know that I'm going to want just a little bit going over the edges so that it, I have it going down to this line, this part. So that's the first thing you have to think about, is where do I put this so that I'm sure it's not going to look terrible. The other thing you have to think about is, if I have this white piece that goes around the edge, I better cut that off. So that's the top edge, and the top edge is really what I cared about the most, is making sure that this edge, actually the bottom edge, when you think about it, it's the bottom edge, is going to be like this. So I'm going to take my cheap brush. That's all you need, is one of these cheapies. You don't need anything high-tech. And I'm using, I think this is from Michael's, it's called Art Minds Decoupage glue and sealer, and it's a matte finish. I'll tip the bottle up before I finish so you can see the bottle really well, because I want to make sure that you know exactly what I'm using. I don't know about you, but it's almost back to school time, and if I was you and I had a little girl that loved all things frilly, and she was all about having a personalized lunchbox, you could go to any of the thrift stores in your area, and I think you'll be able to find these. Now, it's best if you work from the middle out, because then you can really lay it down. But if you're like me, I don't really care if I have a couple wrinkles in there, because it gives it a little bit of character. But if I have one that's, like really super crazy wrinkly, then I like to gently, pick it up and lay it back down. Now I have a little rip because I wasn't too gentle. That's okay though, because here's what I'm going to do. Hopefully I'm just going to lay it back down there like that. And then I'm going to lift up. I'm going to open my if I can, open my little lunchbox, and I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to put some of my glue right along the front. I don't know if you can see this, but I'll have to get back to that in a second. I'm putting my glue right around the edges because I have glue on the top but not on these sides and down to the base of it, the bottom of this lip. So let me lay some of these down. I'm going to stand up and hopefully my head won't be in here. I'm going to get rid of this part that goes, this little circular part, because if you don't, you're going to end up having it kind of eat away at your, every time you put the lid or snap the lid on and off, you're going to end up having a little problem. So I'm going to try and just cut this little piece out. Then what you have to do is when you come to a corner, you're going to have to take a little bit of your paper off. So what I'm going to do on this side, because I haven't glued down a bunch of it, I'm going to trim off my napkin like that. And don't worry about how it kind of looks like it's been hacked at. That's not a problem either. And I'm just going to add more of my decoupage around the top. And then I'm going to put some. You don't want big gobs of it anywhere. So if you have a run or just a spot where you have too much of it, you want to get rid of it. You can always do some distressing on this. If you like distress inks, you could rub some different distress inks over the top to get where these wrinkles are, to make it look like it's more like leather. You can do that. You can do a lot of different things with it. You want to make sure when you're doing your back, this part, that you don't end up having your hinge become part of the project, because then, see, like this is the hinge right here. So you want to make sure you go to the hinge but not below it. And so I'm just going to cut off a little bit more that's in my way. Okay. I think I've got all the spots I wanted to get, so I'm going to go around the back here, doing the same thing. We're just adding a layer of our glue to make sure that we're laying down all the spots and trying not to go over that lip. If you have a little spot that you don't like you missed a little bit, I'll show you that. Can you see right there? Just take another little teeny tiny piece and just lay it over it like that, and then just put a little more of your glue on it. And I'm going to pull back on this stuff, and we'll just let it sit until this part has dried, and then we'll, hopefully my head wasn't in that whole shot the whole time. And then we just make sure we go around and you look at all your edges just to make sure there's nothing on an edge you don't like. And before you finish this this round, we're going to go over the top one more time with a little bit more of our this is called Decoupage glue sealer. It could be Mod Podge, it could be Collage Podge. There's a bunch of different products and they all have different names, but you're going to want one. For me, I like the matte finish. I don't like the gloss finish that is typical Mod Podge. If you get the typical, the kind that everybody used to use, it's very shiny, and I'm not a big shiny lover, so I go for the matte. But you can get whatever you like and make sure that it's really well coated the first time. So we're going to let this layer dry, and then we'll go on to the next layer. But first we want to let this one kind of get set up so that it's ready for the next round. If you do this too fast, if you go from this to the bottom section, what's going to happen is you're going to end up having them stick together, or you're not going to have the look you want. So be patient with this and let the first layer dry before you go on to the next layer. And if you find out where you get a bubble like that, all you have to do is lay it on itself if you are okay with having these creases. And I am okay with having creases. I'm not okay with having bubbles. So if you go over the top of it and feel to see if anything is raised and kind of moving, if it's raised and moving, you don't want it. If it's just raised, you're okay. And then we'll go on to the next step once this is dry. Now I'm going to do the other side. I cut this piece of napkin so it was roughly the same size as my lunch pail. You know, the top to the what do we call that? The seam. We'll call it the seam. Yeah, that's what we're going to call it. We're going to make that up. I'm putting extra on the top so that it gets really gooey. It's a word. Possible. Possible is a word. And because I have the fan going in my office, you know what that means. This is going to be scary. Okay. It's looking pretty frisky. And then of course I'm just going to do these edges down to the line. So I'm going to take my Tim Holtz little teeny tiny snips, and well, I can show you what the other side looks like. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just see kind of where that line is, and hopefully it'll be close enough that I can fake it. A little too short in others. Oh, that's alright. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'll just put this over this section. I'm only going to do to the edge, and then I'm going to kind of push this underneath. Okay, let's just rip some of that off. Okay. And then, I like how I got a lot on the side there already. I haven't even touched it, and I already got a bunch of glue right there. These things happen to me all the time, don't they? Okay. Now, see how we do. I'm gonna put some glue right here. And I'm going to have Rich just fast forward the rest of this because you've seen me do the top. It's exactly the same thing, only it's the bottom. Remember how I told you you have to be really, you have to have patience when you do this? There's the problem I have. My patience is like 0, and so I do things faster than I should have, and you know, and then you end up having little rips like this. So let me finish cutting all this excess off, and I'll be right back. Next step is to do the center section. And the way I did that is I took a napkin, hold on, and I cut the center out of it, like this section. And that was the section that was just butterflies. I'll show it to you. It just looked like this. And I thought by doing that, we could go around. I thought I would start like right here. So let's open up our, I think I told you that I use this Art Mind Decoupage sealer, and I think this comes from Michael's. If I didn't say that already. The bottle looks like that. Hopefully I didn't pour any out on it because it's pretty close to the top. Here's what my plan is I'm going to put some of the paste under there, and then, ooh, a little bit too wet. And I'm going to go down the side because I have water on my brush, which I didn't really want, but what are you going to do? Okay, so let me get this out of the way. I'm going to put this right in there, and I'm going to just kind of push underneath that spot. And I'm going to leave this little spot right here. I'm going to leave that in place. And then I'm going to just some of this out if I can. And if I have a little problem, like I tear the paper, I'm not worried at this juncture because I want to just kind of gently put this around the side, and because some of this is already doubling up on itself, I'm just going to do this because I don't really care about these wrinkles on the side because it makes it look more like a leather kind of. I like that look. I mean, I'm not bothered by it, and I don't care that my little piece is rolled under there either. Okay, if I have a spot like that that looks like it's going to be too big of a mess, then I'll work on it and try to come up with a different plan. But right now, I'm happy with that. Now let me cut another strip from another one of these napkins for the other half. Okay, so I wrapped the paper, another napkin, around this side. I started over here and made sure that I overlapped, and that way when you overlap you can always cut off your excess and not really worry about a big issue because you're overlapping, and then you'll have all this extra to use on anything else. So we're gonna grab a little bit more of our Mod Podge, gently this time, not like before. We're gonna glue these down, making sure that the seam is really well adhered. And we're going to go to the front here. Now I cut, I don't know if you can see this, but I cut the center out of this napkin so that from the center underneath this, I snipped that out of there. And I kept that piece because I want to make sure that I can piece back in the chunk I pulled out. Okay, here's the piece I pulled out. And then I don't need it to be this long, so I'm going to cut some of it off because I want to keep that butterfly there if I can. Just push it back a little bit. Because this napkin is so ornate and has so many things in the background, it's really easy to work with. I've had napkins where if you didn't lay it exactly where you needed to have it, that you ended up having a big mess because the napkin, you could see that the napkin needed to be pieced differently. But other than the butterflies on this one, it's not as big a deal on this one, luckily. I always have better luck when I do this kind of pouncing after I've glued everything down, because if you have excess glue, it doesn't look like a blob. It looks much better than you're going to expect it to. And on this side, I don't know what I was thinking. I have about 1,000 pounds of it over here. So I just keep tapping like this, and it gives it a better finished look, to me anyway. And then after you're done working on it, you always want to clean your brush and the top of your Mod Podge bottle, because if you don't, you end up having a big problem with your Mod Podge bottle not opening for you, and it just doesn't work well. So the bottom of our inside of our lunchbox had this, and I thought, I don't really love it, so I thought what I'd do is just flip it over, go with the white side, then take a little bit of our washi tape, as I showed you before, put it on the back, make sure it's on there really well, and then you're just going to kind of pull piece the front simple as that. You've disconnected the two pieces, and then you have to just decide where on this do you want, do you want it to be roses, or do you want it to be butterflies, simple, or butterflies. I think I'm going to go kind of like this, where the butterflies are just in the upper part of it. I have a fan going in my room, so if things start to blow away, you know exactly what the problem is. I've got fan issues, and I'm just going to glue my whole front of my cardboard. I'm going to hold it up so you can kind of see what I'm doing, hopefully. You want to make sure you really do a good job of getting your edges. That's the most important part of this, because you can end up having it kind of have the edges curl up, and you don't want that. Alright, I'm going to get my scissors. I'm going to flip over my little project, and if your scissors are sharp, this should not be a hard job. If your scissors are not sharp, this could be a nightmare for you. So I'm just going to hopefully just go around my edges. You don't want to rip it, so you want to be careful at this stage, because I'm sorry if I'm off camera, but really the only way for me to do this is to get right on top of it. And it doesn't matter if you get wrinkles in it, because I think the wrinkles add texture. You can wait for it to dry, and you could add some distress stains if you have any of the stains from Tim Holtz. That would make it really cool looking. I thought about doing it to the outside, but I don't know. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to make this too fussy. I just want it to be something that works well for me and that makes me happy. And every time I get my nail polish out, I'll look at this and think about how I made it and how simple it was to make. Here is our center. So I'm just going to open my box up. There's the inside, and we'll just slide that on in there. I put it face up? Yeah. Making sure that I get all my edges in. Those butterflies trick me, because some of them go one direction and some go the other. It's very confusing for me. Okay, so if you are thinking about redoing your old lunchbox, I have a way to do it. I think it's fun, I think it's handy, it looks good, and from all angles it looks like something you worked at, but yet you really didn't work too hard at. So there we have our project. I hope you enjoyed it, that you give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please tell your friends about me on social media, because you know I love that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.